Nigel Kilpatrick, you enjoyed a successful 30-year career, which included starting technology companies in both the US and the UK, leading global teams for major software companies, and coaching and mentoring hundreds of aspiring business leaders. You subsequently founded Compassion in Business, which is dedicated to promoting and teaching compassionate leadership, removing toxic work cultures, and providing mental health solutions and frameworks for employees. Music to my ears, as you know. Thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm in 15 minutes. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I need a bit of calmness. My voice is so croaky today, so I do apologize for that, but
No
I'll
need.
try and project better.
No need.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
It's a pleasure. So you and I, we met recently, didn't we, at an event that our good friend Dan Ware, no relation, I don't think, put on down in Bournemouth. And I did a talk there. It was all about mental health in the workplace and some really powerful things that we can do to transform employee well-being and make it fun, make it secular, make it hard-hitting, make it affect the top and bottom line. This isn't soft, weak stuff. This is really about giving people the edge and getting their creative and innovative spark back, all this kind of stuff. And at the end, Dan, you said a few words that really pricked my ears up about your story, about, in your words, how toxic you've been in some of your leadership roles before, and how kind of the shame, I could feel the shame kind of oozing out of you when
Yeah.
you said it. And then this whole beautiful sort of second part of your life, which I touched on just there, about compassion in business and kind of the complete reverse of everything that you're doing before, and how important that is, how essential that is, not just for us as humans, not just for us as leaders and people, but us for sustainable business and to live in the world that we want to live in. So when you were talking, you did come across as a calm person, but the first question I ask everybody, Nigel, is would you describe yourself as a calm person? I guess right now, not necessarily historically, but right now, as you sit here, would you say you're a calm person?
I am now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a lot calmer, and I think calmness and inner peace is that I work on every day, but because you- because calmness and relaxation and that kind of inner peace is so critical to deal with the world that we've got in today and deal with the world of business that we're in today.
yeah,
So I really, to your point, you know, I took calm as a strategy. Part of my thing, how do I get into a place of calmness? How do I get to that place? Because if I don't get there, I'll remain toxic. If I don't get there, I'll remain angry. If
right,
I don't get there, I will never hit my true performance. So all the kind of things I wanted to work on resulted in me being calm. We can't wake up, you can't think one day, I think I'll be calm today. It
no,
just doesn't happen because
no,
shit happens throughout the whole course of our day. And you just have that kind of stop moment, deal with this in a calm way, deal with it in a very kind of compassionate way, and the outcome will be different.
right,
So very often we are extremely reactive to every situation we get because that ego in our head just constantly talks to us and disrupts our ability to get the outcome which we mainly want to give. So that's what I try and do, and I always work on trying to be calm. I think it's a wonderful question to start with. If you'd asked me that question 5, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have answered it because I wouldn't be on this show to begin with.
right.
So yeah, so I think
That's interesting, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, it's yeah, yeah, I'm calm. Even though I'm worried about the world of work, I'm calm about it because I think we're doing the right things. You're a great voice, you're a great advocate, you're a great champion of compassion. So we're doing the right things, and that allows us to be calm in stormy seas.
Yeah. Let's talk about compassion for a second, because in my work, I typically teach 6 or 8 week courses to corporates, and I work one to one with senior leaders, which is normally over a longer period of time, normally at least 4 months,
Yeah,
normally 6 months. And the compassion piece has always been a piece that I've been in my, I guess if I was completely honest, it's been something that I rejected when I first, my story for those listeners that don't know. So I burned out an IBM, and it led me ultimately to discover mindfulness. And I ended up at Oxford University studying mindfulness there. And I remember doing my first course at Oxford, and it came to the compassion bit of the curriculum, which is quite late on actually. So they teach you, they start with really, self-awareness as the initial fundamental thing, right? Can we start to be more aware of our thoughts, our emotions, our impulses? Can we notice where the mind is pulling us? Can we notice this thought rather than be this thought? Can we notice a strong sense of anger without necessarily acting on it immediately? So building this kind of buffer between the thoughts, the emotions, the impulses, and us, in quotes. And the self-awareness is what's going to give us that, right? If with zero self-awareness, you are your thought, you are your emotion, you just instinctively act on autopilot and you're running around. And if you're biting people's head off, you're biting people's head off because you don't know any different. So we did all this work and we got to about week 6, I think it is. And we started talking about self-compassion. I remember turning my nose up, Nigel, and thinking, oh, I'm an all right bloke. You know, I don't go around kicking cats and robbing people. I'm all right. I don't need that. Am I kind to myself? Probably not. I've always had a really strong inner critic. But it seemed like an icing on a cake that I didn't particularly need. It seemed a little bit. I mean, I was very cynical. So I thought I just don't need this, and it seems soft. And then something that really shifted for me. I can remember reading about this story, and it's a guy. His name's Stephen something. I just remembered that because we share a first name. And he was in. So he served in the U.S. Forces, and he was in Afghanistan. Saw a lot of his friends blown up, killed, maimed, huge PTSD. Came back to the US, worked in the Pentagon when 9/11, when the plane hit. Saw, and again, more colleagues literally around him, blown up, killed. And so he had this double dose of extreme PTSD, and he suffered with that. And he was hugely angry and anxious and depressed. And the thing that unlocked it for him, he went on an 8-week self-compassion course. And I think it was led by 2 authors. I'm sure you know, Kristen Neff and Chris Germer.
Yeah, yeah.
Two people in the US that are doing amazing things, right? And there are full 8-week compassion courses. We can maybe talk about that. And at that moment, I thought, this is a great example. Because when I'm teaching men, if I'm teaching men on my course, they won't love words like loving kindness, metta. What does that mean? Self-compassion. Ooh, that sounds a bit weird. Being nice to other people. Yeah, I can probably accept that. But I thought, if I can reframe this, how can I make this palatable? How can I make this contemporary and secular? And I thought, if I make it more like inner strength, and if I tell them about tough guys that have been in Afghanistan and have had huge suffering, and the one thing that brought them back to a place of peace, I won't say happiness, I'll say contentment,
Yeah.
was self-compassion, then they might sit up and listen. So how have you found, I know you lead with compassion. Compassion is absolutely your thing. What
Yeah.
do you lead with that word, or do you kind of avoid it and try and lead with outcomes? And because if you walk into the average boardroom and go, as respected as you are, right? And I know you're a very respected guy in business, but I imagine that anybody that walks into a boardroom and says, we need to lead with more compassion. How many people are going to go, yes, I'm on board with that, Nigel? And how many people are going to go, what is he talking about? Compassion?
Yeah, I mean, I lead with it because compassion is not a skill, it's a strategy.
Right.
It's just not a strategy for an organization, it's a strategy for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when you bring those two worlds together, it becomes extremely powerful. Everyone, if we just allow our space, our little breathing space emotionally and mentally, we're all very clever people. Everyone in the world is clever. But we just need to give ourselves a space to understand what compassion really is. And when we talk about self-compassion, I've just written a book, as you know, the 10 traits of a compassionate leader. And self-compassion is at trait number 5, right? It's the 5th trait. It's not a whole thing in my world. It's this 5th trait. So the first 4 traits build up, and they're all sequential. They have to work in order, and they all build up to this crossover point. And self-compassion is this crossover point. So the first trait, which is trust, not trust, superficial trust like we have in corporate world, but real self-trust. Get deep, get really, can I trust myself with everything with who I am? And the second trait, which is honesty. And honesty in the corporate world means, can I get people to believe the words I'm saying? Now, if that's the intent, then that's just a lie.
Yeah.
Right? Honesty is about consistency, about those thoughts and actions. So if I start with this trust and I'm grounded, I really understand who I am, who Steve really is, I really get it, I understand. This is my world, these are my boundaries, this is what I'm prepared to do, this is where my values sit. Right, I'm going to live them. And every thought and action that I do will just come out of my mouth. And it will all the actions I take will just be so consistent. Therefore, everything I do is honest. If I've got trust and I've got honesty, then I'm tolerant. So you're starting to build up this kind of, if I've got trust, if I've got honesty, I'm being tolerant about everything and everyone, then I can be gentle. If I've got gentleness, then I can start to really enjoy the power of self-compassion. And self-compassion in the world of business is this forgotten thing, but it's the most important trait that we have in business.
So do you think we
This
had,
is,
sorry to interrupt you, do you think we did
yeah,
have it and we forgot how to do it? Or do you think it's never been there?
yeah, we've gone at such a pace, and we have so many impeding factors
Yeah,
that get in the way.
right.
And it's like, what do you do? What's the last thing you say to yourself when you go to bed? What's the first thing you say when you wake up in the morning? These are two vector points of how self-compassion will run through the course of your day. But we have just forgotten. We now live in a society that's accelerated. We now live in a society that's broken. The ego seems to have now really been a dominant force in our world, and therefore self-compassion actually works against the ego. The ego doesn't want us to be healthy and kind and nice. This self-doubting, this self-criticism, the self-judgment, this voice that goes on constantly in the head actually works against us. So even going to the gym, people think, "Oh, I'm working out, I'm being healthy, I'm being self-compassionate," and that can be counterintuitive as well. Sometimes self-compassion is just having a nice, quiet dinner with your family and friends. There are all these things that are just beautiful and just create this first word that you used when we started this call, which is calmness. And that's where self-compassion and calmness really work. But we've got to get self-compassion into the boardrooms. I used to treat it like you did. I used to like I've got no time for that. If I was to tell people I was being self-compassionate, they wouldn't follow me. Was my lie to myself.
Was it?
Yeah, if I don't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and write some pretty shitty emails to people, then they won't think I'm working hard enough.
Wow.
If I'm not working hard enough, then should I be in the role that I'm in?
Okay.
Because we've got this, gigantic US software giant machine. I was doing 200,000 miles in the air a year.
Jesus.
I mean, it is crazy. So no wonder I'm sitting here with cancers I can't cure. I genuinely believe that those are things. I've got 2 forms of cancer today, and I think those are generally coming from those moments in my corporate career that I just ignored the things that I shouldn't have ignored, which was taking care of myself.
Mm.
And I think also, if I'd taken care of myself, the decisions that I would have made would have been much better.
Yeah.
So self-compassionate decision making are, they're just linked. If you're in a bad, unhealthy, toxic way, then you're going to make those kind of decisions. If you're in a healthy, calm, serene, high productive, high performing way, then you'll make the right decisions based on that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. If Nigel's sitting here today, 25th of June, 2025, if he could go back in time and meet toxic Nigel, who's getting up at 3 a.m. and sending shitty emails, to use your words, would toxic Nigel have listened to 2025 Nigel? And if he wouldn't, what chance have you got of changing the world?
That's a very good question. I think the 20 years ago Nigel, the previous Nigel, actually did listen, but it took me a while. And I think, I went through that period of having to really go through horrendous times of reflection,
Yeah.
because I ignored it for a long time, and I had to start, getting to a point where noticing different things were going on in my life and different situations that were going on in my work life. So, you got to pay attention to this. All around, all day long, we're all getting messages of things we should pay attention to, and we've got to be more open to those things, listen to them.
Yeah.
So I did start it, but it took me a long time. But I was already at the bottom of where, I was at the bottom of the trough. I was
Yeah.
I was in a really bad place. So I did start to listen, and then it took me a long while to come out of it. But I started to listen to, read a lot of spiritual books. Then I had to find the messages in the spiritual books, and then start to lead me on to other things.
Yeah.
So I probably think it probably took me 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. What I really wish is this stuff was taught in business school.
Mm.
That's what I wish. Why are we teaching this stuff to people when they start their career? So you haven't got to wait to people like me who are almost 60 years old, having to change their career path and journey to go on a mission to try and help people. We've got to change it at the cause level, because we're all living in this cause and effect. And the world of business loves it to be the world of effect. It just doesn't want to deal with the root causes of change.
Yeah.
And this is why we've got to get it into education. We've got to get it into business schools. We've got to get it in the early stage. We've got to allow the new generation who are coming in to have a chance to make a
Yeah.
difference. That that's the bit that I'm on my journey to try and help. People my age are probably lost cause. But it's the younger generation that we've got to help as leaders in today who are my age, and from 40 to 60 years old. We have to do something. We have to take accountability and responsibility.
Mm. I had someone on this podcast a couple of weeks ago called David Larkin. He's an ex-IBM. I didn't really know him at IBM, but he's created a company called 8 Billion Ideas, and
Right.
he's teaching kids. I think he's in the Middle East at the moment. He's teaching kids. Yeah, I think he's in Dubai. He's teaching kids the skills that I guess he wishes he was taught, and the skills that he believes are truly valuable for the next generation. Entrepreneurship, how to manage your money. Not the stuff that we all want to, and mental health is part of that. I wonder if it's worth me connecting you with him. Just that.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, mental health. I mean, the world is every business needs a personal IQ in it.
Yeah.
It just does, and big corporates, you can afford to do it, so do it. Hire the Steves of the world into your business. SMEs, this is where it's a real challenge.
Yeah.
Founders and entrepreneurs, it's a real challenge. We have to find a way to help them.
Mm.
Because the world, the world's broken. I mean, it just is. We know it is, and
And
we
for
can't
me,
just carry on.
when I asked you that question earlier about what is Nigel 20 years ago, what does he say? Does he even listen to the Nigel of today? We're almost at the real heart of the issue here. Is when does somebody become open enough to what we're talking about, that what we say resonates deeply enough with them that they go, okay, yes, let me make a change. And the root of that has to be suffering. I think the answer to it, if you boil everything down, is suffering, whether it's an illness, you've talked about your cancers, whether it's burnout, whether it's fed up of not seeing my kids, fed up of not being able to sleep, whatever it is. And I think I have to try and meet people in that sweet spot where they're suffering, not too much, hopefully. And that's why I wonder, because sometimes, and you can answer this better than probably anybody, sometimes the higher you go up in a business, if you walk through the doors of a boardroom, everybody in there is resilient, right? You don't get to sit in a boardroom without being particularly resilient. You must be able to handle a lot more stress than probably your average Joe to even get to that position. And you're probably a highly productive person as well. So these people sitting in these boardrooms, they're probably more tolerant of stress, dare I say it, less understanding, because they haven't experienced as much suffering maybe as some people whose stress has been higher in their life or affected them more in their life. So when you come in at that really senior level, do you find that these people just don't relate to it in the same way that maybe people that are affected by stress more would?
Yeah, speaking from my own experience, and being in the boardrooms and seeing it, and the thing about a boardroom, it's so competitive, even though everyone's working for the same company.
Yeah.
It's highly political.
Yeah.
So bloody hell, why is everyone so stressed? Because they're fighting against each other. They're fighting against these KPIs, these metrics, these performance indicators. They're fighting for their bonus.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, in a big corporate, that's what it's like. And then we bring things into the conversation, like, okay, let's talk about our company culture. And very often, in my experience, it's been something where we discussed it. We set a brand. we set in motion the brand of that culture, but we kind of left it to go in its own direction. Where boards make a mistake is by letting that culture, ethos, and values go. And, because we're back into this kind of friction, back into the, I'm better than you, and I'm in line for the top job. I'm going to get, all that crap that goes on. But I mean, really, I was doing it. I did it. One of the things that I think I was lucky in, I just allowed my personality to try and get it through. I wasn't that bothered whether I got promoted or not, but it did in natural cases. But I was never fighting against other people against it. I see it all the time. It's a big worry. So we're adding false stress. We're adding unnecessary stress into our world. And so we've got to teach people early on, in that moment of suffering. Let me share something else with you. I'm not sure if you know, I'm a trained Samaritan, so I go and listen to the calls coming in, and it's the most humbling experience of my life. It's a beautiful thing that I'm allowed to go and do, is to do that. And in moments of, actually, I think everyone in the boardroom come and spend a bloody shift in Samaritans. You'll feel that your issues are nothing, right? And you'll go back home and laugh and cry about your own life. So, but more and more of these calls are coming in from, I'm stressed at work, I'm being bullied at work. Work is the underlying cause of what's going on. Yeah. So this is how serious this problem is.
Right.
And the more blinkers that executives put on, I think middle management up is the problem. Why is middle management part of the problem? Because they want to be senior management.
Yeah.
They will do the things that drive the performance indicators in the right way.
Yeah.
Pay less attention to the human side of what needs to be done, because they don't fully understand that when you take care of your employees and you take care of their mental health is in a beautiful, soft, balanced way, and everyone's home life is better as a result of that. Therefore, that web of activity, that web is turning from negative to positive. When they can realize, I did this at a previous company, by the way, where I showed how a compassionate operating model can be financially beneficial. That's why self-compassion is only one of those traits. But I showed, listen, happier people, healthier people, better performing people. Therefore, employee retention is better. All these things that we can work on.
Yeah. But
it's the middle management layer that just have to understand, and it's quite logical when you think about it, that a healthy, mindseted workforce is the only objective that they should go after. Nothing else matters. Everything else is secondary. What should be the shift is in that strategic intent. Let's put the humans into our strategy as the driver, not have I got first mover advantage in the Middle East or not. Not can I do my M&A activities much quicker and more efficiently. Not can I do my, let's see how that works, right? And then you will see how the performance really increases.
And you're a very optimistic, positive guy. How big do you see your task because we're asking quite a big thing here, aren't we? We're asking middle management and above to quite fundamentally shift priorities in some ways, how they compensate people, maybe. Does it feel like a big risk to them, do you think? Do you think they feel like they're pioneering things if you manage to, I won't say convince, if they become an ally of yours? Do they think it's risky going this way, or do you think they really see the benefit of it?
Just need the tools. I mean, it's like anything in life. Conceptually, I get it. So Nigel, I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
And also, I had to take on my journey between the difference. Understand what compassion really is.
Yeah.
It's not. And the difference between empathy and compassion. The first thing I'm trying to eradicate is having empathetic leaders.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest red flag of all. I think that scares me when that's their mantra. Well, I've got empathetic leaders. No, get rid of that, because that's horrendous. So I've taken through that journey because empathy has no action to it. There's no intention, and compassion is all about intention.
Yeah.
So I'm being a bit provocative and say, oh, no, empathy is a great listening tool and use it, but it's not your leadership style. And so, well, how do we do this then? You know, how do we? This is a shift. And I'm not saying to anybody, listen, change. Don't focus on your revenue performance indicators. Don't not think about your operational efficiency to drive your EBIT. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying what we need to do is just apply the right tools and framework that's led by compassion into that operating model.
Yeah.
I say things like compassion needs to be in your employment contracts. And they go, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, so I say, don't get me your grievance policy. Here's our 6 paragraphs of our grievance policy. Okay, what does it say? Typically, this is what I get. Oh, it says we give you 5 days off work, or not in the office. So okay, how many people in the office today? Well, no one. So why have you got something that said, So how would this work? Now, this during COVID with one company. So how would this work? Just say take as much time as you need. Just say that. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that if you were the person having to look at the policy that this just happened to you, and your partner died or your child died, and you read those words, just take as much time as you need? How would you feel about the company that's written that for you? And everyone just goes back, well, yeah, I get it. Okay, let's get a bit more gentle then. Let's take your dress code policy. Well, here's my 15-page dress code policy. We're very happy about that. How about 2 words? Dress appropriately. That works. So what are you doing? You're building trust.
Yeah.
You're doing these things that those little tiny examples are elements of how people start thinking with a compassion lens into their business.
Yeah.
And then they say, now start thinking about how difficult you make it for your customers. How much friction are you putting in the way, from your SLAs, your service level agreements, whatever you have, how much friction are you putting in there? So yeah, but Nigel, we're regulated, we've got compliance. I get that. But let's think about why we have the word compliance in our business vocabulary. Why do we have this thing called policy, the word policy? We have it because the last century and a half, we have mismanaged ourselves. We have corporate scandals, we have customer scandals, we have fraud, we have so many different examples around the world that what we have done, we decided to do is put an effect element in. So rather than deal with the root cause of those scandals and those mismanagement and everything, and those, how horribly we treat our customers and employees, what we've done, we put a thing called a rule of regulation compliance in. Rather than doing that, it's easier to go contain rather than deal with it. So saying, okay, so now let's think differently. Imagine that, in the right way, that you could try and get to trait number 10. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but trait number 10, which is defenselessness, where you've got nothing to defend. Imagine you had no corporate in-house counsel having to protect you from being sued by employees or customers or suppliers, because you're just there. So trait number 10 is my nirvana, doing a U because I've got my traits. But this isn't the nirvana place to be. To think about that, how can you therefore put compliance into that way of thinking? It won't happen immediately. Start with the easy bits. Start with the employees, number one. Listen to them. And take off all the hats that you're wearing. And they go, Nigel, what do you mean by that? I said, listen, I wore so many hats when I was a leader in a company. And as an entrepreneur, I wore even more hats. And what I realized, I've only got one hat in the end. So I paraphrase this by saying, you mentioned this, people, you get the boardroom, people don't want to talk about the word love or kindness. And I deal with it right up front and say, right, we're going to talk about love all day long. Oh, what's a bit difficult? Maybe we should get HR to come in. I don't think we'd have this conversation. I would like to talk about love in this kind of way. What happens if you hug someone? That's another thing that I do. But say, listen, when you leave home and you go home, you probably will tell your friend, your partner, whatever it might be, your children, your friends, that you love them. Right. So in that moment when you do that, you're being the best human being that you can be. And because if you're genuine with it, it's such a beautiful connection. But when we come to work, all of a sudden our guardrail comes up and we become something, we're
Yeah.
pretending to be someone
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
So we put another hat on. And then what we do, we put another hat on saying, I'm now a manager of my supply chain or whatever, I'm my DevOps or whatever it might be, and putting all the hats on. And we're pretending. So just take them all off and just be human. It doesn't mean that anything changes. We don't become softer. That's a big shift I have to get across everyone mentally.
Yeah.
Compassion is not soft.
Yes.
It's strategic. It is
Yeah.
a powerhouse of strategy having a compassionate lens on it. So don't think that being compassionate or kind or loving is a soft thing. It's the most powerful thing. And certainly don't think vulnerability is soft. I mean, I'm talking to loads of people who are being vulnerable, and it's such a beautiful, powerful trait to have it. You know, it's beautiful. Them as CEOs. I mean, you've got a CEO that can be a person who can be vulnerable in your business. Put them on the fast track to being a CEO, and that's a beautiful thing. Allow people. Sorry, I'm rambling. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and someone said, "What's the best way to help junior leaders and middle managers see of the senior leaders?" I said, "Senior leaders should go into a room one day in their quarterly business review, their QBR, and say, right, what we're going to do next quarter, we're all going to fail like mad. We're going to fail at everything we do, and we're going to allow everyone in the business to see that we're doing that. But what we're going to do, we're going to make sure everyone's okay. We're going to say, don't worry, I just failed, but it's okay to do that." And when we start doing things like that,
Yeah.
the stress just goes away.
Yeah.
It begins to go away, and life becomes happier.
Mm. I posted the other day on LinkedIn about men's mental health, which I'm a huge advocate of. And I just mentioned Tyson Fury, right? He's a world heavyweight boxing champion. People don't know him. Physically very big, tough guy. He's probably one of the toughest guys on the planet. Physically, there's not many men that could get in a boxing ring with him and last more than 2 seconds. But he speaks very openly about struggling with his mental health, and I love that. Whether you love or hate Tyson Fury, I love the fact that he will stand up and say, "I've got millions in the bank. I can buy any car and house I want. I'm a VIP wherever I go. Any man that's into boxing thinks I'm their hero. But I still struggle with my mental health." And that does so much for young men's mental health. I think for young boys, because if they're feeling low, if they're feeling anxious, they can look up and go, "Do you know what? The heavyweight champion of the bloody world feels like this sometimes. So it gives me permission to feel like it."
Yeah.
And I think that's such a powerful thing, especially amongst men. I think we tend to feel like we've got to be the last ones to cry. We've got to be the ones to hold everything together. We put these masks on wherever we go, whether it's at work or at home. And the more we can do to be vulnerable and show our compassion, because we all love it, right? Even if you use a simple example of getting stuck in the snow and helping to push someone's car out, or helping somebody to change a puncture on the side of the road, or just giving someone a present. Even the toughest guy in the world knows that feels nice. And we all want to
just smiling at someone.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
But it has to come from here.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing we have to be conscious of is that smile that we give, or that helping the puncher. We can't do it because we want the other person to think that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Unless it genuinely comes from us inside.
Yeah.
And without any thanks.
Yeah.
How many people do think that they do it because they want the thank you?
Yeah.
They want the post on LinkedIn, that guy did such a great job. That's not what that really is all about.
Yeah.
It's about trust, self-trust, and that consistency, that honesty, that thing I talked about earlier. And again, I always think the best advice comes from learned experience, not from theory.
Absolutely.
And this is why I feel quite privileged that my spiritual world put me through all the crap I had to go through to come out the other end and start being able to do this kind of thing. But I haven't got the answers, not by a stretch. One of the things that I think is a real issue at the moment, and I want everyone who's listening, where you have the power to do this, and influence, then we need to come together. We need to sort all this out together. We need to be a single voice. Is that we have a new generation of workforce that's coming into the workforce. My daughter's 19, so she's in the number. That I think are very emotionally intelligent. I think emotional intelligence is right up here, aware and yes, maybe there's a bit of entitlement in this generation, but emotional intelligence is up there. Emotional resilience is down here. Down here. The resilience to that. Awareness is right here. The activity of controlling it is actually down here.
Yeah.
And what I have begun to see is that corporates are trying to do this. I think, oh my God, leave this beautiful, tolerant, and be open-minded.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, in America, it's very difficult right now. But leave that emotional intelligence right up here. Learn from it. And I'm learning so many great things from this group of this new era. But figure out the strategies and the tools and the frameworks that internally, as your business has an obligation to do, drive up the resilience to meet the level of emotional intelligence. Then we're going to set up the next workforce that represents the brand that we are building together, that's supporting a huge customer base. They'll be strong enough, eager enough, and resilient enough. I think that's true resilience. When you have those two levers at the same height, then we've got to do that. And mental health, mental happiness is at the core of all of that. And again, people think, "Oh, Nigel, but my productivity is going to go down." Absolutely not. It's going to go the opposite way. If you do this, I will guarantee you that your business will be more efficient, more effective, and your EBIT will be much, much better. But you will enjoy what you do every single day. You will wake up and want to contribute to your work because you're getting self-contribution.
Yeah.
Because you feel like that. That's what we've got to do, I think.
Yes. And to imagine that productivity would go down in that situation would be to believe that the saying floggings will continue until morale improves works.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, does it?
No.
I'm going to ask you two more questions, Nigel. I could talk to you all day, but two more questions. You can interpret this one however you want. What's been the toughest, highest stakes situation you've ever been in, either personally or professionally? So the highest stakes situation you've ever been in, and how did you get through it?
That's a very good question. I mean, when you say answer it corporately, personally, because obviously the cancer is the obvious one.
Yeah.
But I had cancer when I was 26.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to have to go through that early on in my life.
We talk about it in the book, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I talk about that moment when I was diagnosed in New York, and it was a worrying time. That I had three choices: tuberculosis, AIDS, or cancer. And I said it wasn't tuberculosis. You've never seen anyone be so happy to told that it's not AIDS, right? So or sorry, you've got cancer. I was humping for joy. Right, I've got cancer.
Yeah.
So when I was told again, in almost 30 years later, when I was 56, I got 58 now. I got told when I was 56, I got cancer again. And I'm gonna have to live with it. And I've now got another one. I've got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so I'm gonna have to live with that. So in that moment, I think that's the obvious one. So I think there's the personal one, and I'll come into how I got through it in a moment. And another situation, which is very, very different from a corporate perspective, is when I had to let go a lot of people in the company. And this was in a high toxic situation. And there was a moment when I was being quite toxic, where I wasn't being toxic in this moment, because I realized it was quite an emotional thing. But I still played along with it. Again, in the book, I talk about it when I was sitting around this table and people presenting to me and saying, get rid of that person there, put that person on the list, that person should go. And it was just horrendous. Then I went home at night and thought, shit, no, that was terrible. So I started to beat myself up about that a lot. And I didn't tell anyone about it for a long, long time. Actually, I only spoke about it in the book for the first time. And so I carried that burden with me. I carried that moment of decision making with me. But one of those sparks, when I started looking in the deep mirror of reflection, which I had to do to come out from my dark days of toxicity. And one of the moments I look back on was that moment. So how dreadful was that? I was pretending to people I was something different. So I used the world of spirituality to help me overcome the situation. And it's the same situation that I used in when I was told I had cancer again. So then we were in and told, this ain't gonna look good for you, Nigel. That's what I do. So there's a book that I became completely engrossed with many years ago, and this book became my savior. Really, it was called A Course in Miracles. I'm not sure if you've heard of it,
Have you?
but I'm an avid student of it. In fact, the 10 traits of a compassionate leader is actually based on the principles of a teacher. So I'm bringing all those spiritual components into the world of business. And I think I'm going to the lion's den trying to get that kind of teaching of the Course in Miracles into the world of business, but into lion's den I go. That's the way we're going to do it. So I was able to just kind of use those great classic spiritual teachings to guide me out of that situation. And I just gave myself the time and the permission to ignore the ego completely and just lean into that one spiritual book that changed my life and take the time to come out of it.
Amazing. So I became aware of A Course in Miracles through my favorite teacher, a guy called Eckhart Tolle, who
Yeah.
wrote Power of Now, and he breaks down Course in Miracles. And I've spoken already on this podcast about what a massive cynic I am about anything and everything, especially when it comes to spirituality and mindfulness and all these kind of things. And A Course in Miracles was channeled, right? It was kind of in fact, there's a lady, she's in the US, I think, wasn't she? Was she working in a
Helen
lab?
Shipman. Helen
Right.
Shipman. Yeah, she was a professor at I think New York University.
Right.
She
So
was made a Jewish atheist.
right. So suddenly she feels this strange thing, like this book's coming through. I don't know what the right words are to use, but she feels that. I mean, we describe it as channeling, but for people that are put off by that word, she feels like these words just need to come through her somehow, and she has to get them out. And I don't think she particularly told anyone about this. She thought they'd all go mad and lock her up and
Well,
her head a padded cell.
she was having a conflict with another business colleague, and he said, "There's got to be another way to deal with this conflict that we're having," and that opened up the opportunity for her to have this kind of quietness and this channeling coming through from Jesus. And if anyone who's a skeptic about A Course in Miracles, just go and read it. There's no way on earth that anyone can convince me this isn't a channeled piece of work. I mean, it's not a book. It's a course, and you've got the text and you've got these daily lessons you have to do. Always kind of incredible stuff. It's just beautifully simplistic, but it's also beautifully, it's a hard read, no question about it. It is tough. But there's no question in my mind. We begin to understand again. There's a great community called the Circle of Atonement. It's been given Circle of Ada.org, who are brilliant at this, just breaking it all down. But when you've got the great leaders like Eckhart Tolle and all these others Marianne Williamson, she's another great teacher of it.
Yeah.
And it's just so simple. But anyway, it's you can choose whatever you like. You can choose Buddhism, you can choose all these other paths. They all lead to the same place.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but just do something. If spirituality is something you're interested in, just have a go. It saved my life.
Absolutely. And I'd say to anybody listening that's a cynic like I was, stroke am, don't believe anything. Don't believe anything you and I are saying today. Don't believe anything in A Course in Miracles. Don't believe anything in the Power of Now. There's no faith required for this. Just see what's true in your experience. Practice it, be your own laboratory, and see what's true for you. It doesn't matter what Oxford, Harvard, and everybody else say about their double-blind peer-reviewed studies and everything, all the other fancy stuff they do. As amazing as that is, just see what's true for you. This isn't, I'm not asking you to believe anything. It's like fitness, right? No one ever got fit by listening to a talk on fitness or believing in fitness. You're not going to find peace by just reading about it. It's got to be experiential knowing. But I feel like you. I know A Course in Miracles has been a huge inspiration. You're kind of making that contemporary and bringing that into the modern world. I feel like I'm doing the same thing with Eckhart's teachings, just trying to phrase them in a way that people will understand it, or if I can speak to a corporate in a way that I can get his message through that they get it, perfect. Because
I mean, everyone should read The Power of Now.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's beautiful. I mean, I don't know, amazing. You know, there's got to be a better word than those two words we just used.
Yeah.
It's so compelling and so simple.
Yeah.
And you know, don't be afraid to read it at work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Steve, if you are out there teaching that in work, all power to you, my friend. Keep on doing it because that's the message that work needs to listen to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. And you say you break it down into a language they understand.
Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah, and then it's pioneering.
Yeah. And it's completely timeless. These books, A Course in Miracles, The Power of Now, they're always fresh and new. It's not like you don't open and go, I've read that. It touches you to a depth. There's something so deeply, instinctively true that you know, not as a concept, but you know so deeply in you that every time you pick it up, you can flick through a page and just read a paragraph and go, ah. And it's almost like breathing again. It's almost like coming up for air and just going. That's how I describe reading the text in these books. It's kind of like, that just feels great. It just feels right. It just feels so instinctively pure and wise. Yeah, I'd encourage anybody to read those books.
I have it on my app. And my bottom thing of my app is Circle of Atonement, the
Nice.
Course in Miracles app.
Perfect.
So that's how important it is to me.
Yeah.
On the bottom. I mean, everyone who is listening, just give it a go. As you say, just try not read business books for a while. Just say, commit to yourself for 6 months. I'll get rid of all the diaries of a sea and all that kind of stuff. To put them over there, they're wonderful and they're very great. And just bring a new genre into your thinking.
Yeah.
That actually will make those other books be more meaningful.
Yeah. Last question before some really quick fire questions. Dalai Lama once said, if every single 8-year-old in the world was taught meditation, we'd eliminate violence within 1 generation. That's a pretty big statement.
Oh, but so true.
Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. I also think if females were leaders to take up, we'd never have war.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah.
And Dalai Lama, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful individual. And
yes. We'll close with some quick fire stuff, Nigel. Morning or evening person?
Morning.
Emails or phone calls?
Phone calls.
Favorite food?
Fish.
Oh, which one?
Steak. Could I just say food?
Surf, let's go surfing then.
I think I was in Chicago last week. I had the best pork chop I've ever had in my life.
Did you?
It was, yeah, in Kalamazoo, the Radisson Hotel. Little plug for them. No, I changed my mind. I had the best omelet in my life in Chicago, in Kalamazoo last week.
Wow.
I posted about the guy who made it. So I think I love my meat. I think actually, it's a great question. I've been rambling about the answer, and here's my answer: liver.
Oh, which one?
Calves.
Calves liver is beautiful.
Love it.
I feel awful eating it, but it's beautiful. Because of course you were in the restaurant.
I was
for years.
I met a long time ago, and I had to change my career because my first cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, I was reading about it.
Yeah, I love that career, and I was actually mentored by a guy called Peter Boyser who founded Pizza Express, and he gave me some very good advice. I think I was about 21, 22 years old. He said, Nigel, when you fire someone, it's not a very nice thing to do. Make sure the final part of that process in having to let someone go, it takes about 5 seconds. I went, wow, that's a bit brutal. He said, no, if you take them on the journey all the way through and you're being honest about everything that goes on to that in that process, don't forget, this is in the 80s, right, where the world was very, very different. Then when it comes to that final moment, both parties are aware that this is just going to be very, very quick. You've been honest and you've just been open and transparent all the way through. So he was he was a very compassionate founder. He was an incredible guy.
Wow.
So I learned a lot from him.
Favorite book? A Course in Miracles or something else?
Course in Miracles.
Can't say fairer than that.
Course in Miracles. No, it's just the way it is. Oh, I know my favorite book. 10 Traits of a Compassionate Leader.
Oh yes, go and get that. I'm about a third of the way through. I'm really enjoying it. It's I can thoroughly recommend it. I know Dan's just finished it. He posted about it, didn't he, as well?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, it's
Guilty
something
pleasure,
keeping me busy.
Nigel.
Golf.
Nice. Good handicap, or are you just playing for?
I used to have a better handicap than I do today. But I just love, I'm a member of a course local called Remedy Oak, and they are such beautiful individuals. And
Yeah.
there's no politics. The course is lovely, and I love doing it.
Nice.
Play golf.
Last question: if you could invite anyone over for dinner, alive or dead, who would it be?
100%. It's going to be Jesus. 100% all day long.
You're the third person to have said that.
Yeah, well, what a.
So we'll have to get you all together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, why not just do that? Yeah. I've often thought about that question, and it always comes down to him. The reason why I come down to him because he knows all the answers anyway. So all the other guests I want to invite, ask him, what about that? He tell me.
Nigel, thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
No, listen, mate, thank you. I applaud what you're doing. What you're doing into the next generation of work and the world of commerce is so important. And I'm urging everybody to pay attention to the work of what you're doing. It's so critical. It's just got to be baked into every kind of decision that we're making now. Without it, we're going to hit the wall extremely quickly. And you can forget about a World War III that people talk about. You can talk about the First World Corporate War that we're about to go through, because we are in a global workforce crisis, and you've got 8 out of 10 employees openly admitting around the world that they are openly disengaged with their employer, their manager, and the brand that they represent. So they're turning up to get a paycheck. That is something we have to fix. That tells you that Gallup data tells you that mental health sits right at the core of that problem, and it has to be fixed. So thank you for doing the work that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
No worries. Take care.
You too.